Hey everybody, it's Ziggy. Today we're going to be dyeing our hair and talking about some of our tattoos. So that should be interesting, hopefully. I'm going to put my gloves on before I start with my dye, obviously. The songs in the background playing are from our Surreal Songs List 1 on our playlists, if you want to check it out sometime. We probably won't get through the whole song list. One of the songs is like 20 minutes long, so... And I don't think it'll take quite that long to do my hair. But we're going to be doing Black Violet Storm. So it'll be purple when we're done. It's kind of purple still now, you can barely see it, but it's mostly rinsed out. We use a clean toothbrush that's never been used for anything else but hair dye when we do our hair when it's this short, because it's really easy. Yeah, for our first tattoo we'll tell you about is our, this is Darth Vader. I don't know if everybody can recognize him without his full helmet on. Some people don't. But this is the first one we got when we were 29, and our friend did it for us for our birthday. We helped him promote their shop a couple times, and they were like, hey, you know, if you really like that design, I'll do it for you for your birthday for free. And I was like, yes, please. So we went real big with our first tattoo, and it went really well. But to explain it a little bit, it says, save me, as you can see. And part of the reason for that is Vader's kind of a sad character, really, if you think about it, because predestination is a thing in their universe, and everything was predestined to happen. He had no control over becoming what he was going to become, so that's kind of sad. So I really dug the tattoo. My friend did it up in black and simple, and I really love that one. It was our first tattoo ever, so that was exciting. And I'll load up my brush with a little bit of paint and start my hair here, and then we'll tell you about another one. Let's see, which one did we have? We're going to just explain to you our right arm first, and then see where we get. If we get to it, we'll explain some of our chest pieces. But, yeah, let me just start getting some dye in my hair here. It's really fiddly getting the front bit here without getting it all over my forehead, because my hair is getting rather thin these days. Which I'm okay with. As long as I've still got hair that I can dye pretty colors, I'm alright with that. Yay, ducks. These no commercials. Damn, commercial. Bicycle, bicycle, bicycle. I want to ride my bicycle, bicycle, bicycle. Because what else was I supposed to follow Pink Floyd's I've Got a Bike with, right? But let's see. The next one I'll tell you about on my right arm, upper arm here, is this beautiful piece here that I designed myself, and is one of my more recent tattoos. I got this last summer. And it says Eastern Oregon, because that's where I'm from, and it's got 2 heads of wheat, because wheat is very big in Eastern Oregon, oddly, despite the fact that it's a desert. We grow a lot of wheat out there. The mountain range that you can see there is the Blue Mountains, which we had a spectacular view of from my house, which was on top of a hill. So, and because I could not find a silhouette of the Blue Mountains, big shock, it's not a very well-known mountain range unless you're from this side of the country, I drew one myself. And my tattooist, who did all of my tattoos, were done by Miss Carrie Smith, with the exception of this one and my floral tattoo here, which I'll explain later, which were done by Mark. I'm forgetting his last name, but I remember his tattoo shop's out on 65th and Foster in Portland, Southeast, if you ever want to go there. And my floral one was done by Michael from Blue Ox Tattoo out in Northeast on Kilpatrick and 17th. So if you ever want to see either that, Mark Ledford, that's his name. So if you Google Mark Ledford Portland Tattoo, you'll find the guy who did my Vader. And if you Google Blue Ox, you'll find the fabulous Michael who did my floral tattoo. But the rest of them were all done by Miss Carrie Smith of New Rose Tattoo on 48th and Southeast Division. I live in Southeast Portland, so in case you were wondering. I'm not going to get any more specific than that. Southeast Portland's pretty big, so. Oh, I want to ride it where I like. Totally down the bend. I don't want to see my friends. I don't want to see my best friend. 'Cause she's driving me insane. I don't want to see my friends. I'm going totally around the bend. Earlier I walked down the street, but my feet kept slipping on the pavement. I found myself at 90 degrees to the rest of the world. It's not much fun, you can take it from me. Not had too good a time. Alright, some of you who know me know I'm not a religious individual, but I do have a lover hen tattoo on my inner right arm. And the reason for that is because I'm both Chicano, and I was raised Catholic, like most Chicanos, and Lava Hen kind of has a soft spot in my heart. I occasionally burn prayer candles because of just, I'm also slightly into Santeria, so a little bit of Mexican, etc., witchcraft. I believe actually Santeria is originally from Puerto Rico, but it's spread west. But that is why I have a lovely Virgin Mary tattoo on my arm. I put it someplace where I don't have to see her all the time, but I can see her when I want. Next one we'll cover is, let's see, might as well do this one. This is my most recent acquisition, my Invincibility Star that I got done in January. As a treat, I got that done to celebrate my top surgery, which I just had January 16th. And so I'm 4 months from surgery, and that's why I've got these great big lateral scars across my chest, in case you were curious. And that is also why I had no nipples, because I had mine removed. I decided I didn't want them anymore. And, as far as healing time goes, if you're a trans mask pre-op watching this, I highly advise, if you're not really attached to them, just let them go. Because healing time is much, much quicker. And a lot less painful, from what I understand. I have a friend who kept theirs, and they said they kind of wish they hadn't, given the healing time and whatnot, and the disparities there. And I'm going to be turning around, and you'll be able to see the tattoo on the back of my neck, which is actually the letter Buck symbol, coupled with a Spanish phrase that says, for the Cowboys, which I got for the Cowboys, who I used to, watch all the time growing up. This is the tricky part, getting the back part of my head. And trying not to paint my bald spot bright purple. I do have a tiny little bald spot on the top of my head right there, and I tried very hard not to get too much dye on it, just to dye the hair around it. But let's see, what else we got on our right arm here? take a quick break. We've got our puppy paw prints here. Let me see if I can turn. Yeah. You can see one of them at least. That's our dog Bosley's paw prints. He was our first service dog, and he passed away 5 years ago this July. And when he did, we had the vet ink his paws on a little card. Dove Lewis, if you're in the Portland area and you ever have to let a pet go see Dove Lewis. They will treat you with so much kindness and respect, and your pet will be treated with respect, and yeah, they're very dignified when it comes to having to let a pet go because of illness or injury. Can you hear him turn there? Now you can see the tattoo on my back. It's the only one I've got on my upper back so far. So The Adventures of Gregory Peccary. Comes Gregory, little Gregory Peccary. I love this song. This is my favorite Zappa song. This and Billy the Mountain. Here, we'll explain this tattoo next. This one here on our arm says, I refuse to be invisible, which is both a reference to Big Boo from Orange is the New Black. It's something they said in an episode about their lesbianness and their butchness, that they're not going to sit around and be invisible. And I respect that. And as a trans person, that's a big thing for me, especially because I'm trans masc and I've had my top surgery now. As long as I'm fully clothed, I can blend in with cis society as much as I want. I just don't want to, because that's just not what I am. So we've got the trans symbol there with the power fist, which is an international, fight the power sort of symbol. And the phrase, I refuse to be invisible, and anyone who understands what that symbol is can hopefully glean meaning from that. I have a friend up at the dispensary near my apartment who was checking it out the other day, but I don't know if he knows what the symbol means. I think he just thinks it means that I'm gay, which I am also. So, it's all good. It's one of those tattoos that I don't care to explain generally to strangers. You either get it or you don't. And it's a shibboleth, as it were. It's one of those things where if you get it, and you're probably part of the community. And if you don't, well, you're probably not, and I don't care if you don't get it. Look out, here he comes again. Here comes Gregory Peccary. This is Gregory Peccary. Alright, let's see. That's got most of my arm. I'd have to reposition the camera in order to show you the one that's on my arm. Here you can kind of see the text there, right here. What it says is, them as can do has to do for them as can't, and someone has to speak up for them as has no voices. This is a quote from Granny Aching from the Tiffany Aching books by Sir Terry Pratchett, which I highly, highly recommend to anyone. It's about a young girl who becomes a witch in the tradition of witches like Granny Weatherwax and Nanny Ogg, who are also characters from the famous Discworld series by Sir Terry Pratchett, which I recommend the whole thing, all of it. But One of my favorite places to start, though, is with the Tiffany Aching books. They're really, really great. And they're especially good if you got a little girl in your life. I highly recommend them. The stories start when Tiffany's about 8 or 9 and progress through her teen years. And it's just a great series all around. Alright, it looks like I've just about got this with the hair dye. It's so hard to find a place to park around here. And now we gotta let this sit. But that gives us time to talk about the tattoos on our hand. Let me just take my gloves off, because we've covered everything else on my arm. Now we get to cover my hand tattoos. And we've got a Zia sun symbol, which is from the New Mexico region, which is very close to where my grandmother's tribe hails from, and they use a very similar sun symbol, so I went with that one. Si se puede, which means yes we can. That's the motto of the 1970s and 80s Chicano movement, led by Cesar Chavez, and it was a civil rights movement. Look it up. I recommend you familiarize yourself with it if you're white, because it's, an important part of our history here in the country. This, as I mentioned, Boz, short for Bosley, our dog. We got this the day after he passed away. Our tattooist actually did it on the house for us. I really appreciate that. Thank you again, Carrie. She was familiar with Bosley. He was a real sweetheart. He was a dachshund. So, there's him. We keep him with us always. Let's see. Let's go with, here's an elephant I designed myself that Carrie did for me. And some of you may be familiar with the famous Keith Haring artist, graffiti artist of New York City of the 80s, one of the unfortunate people we lost to AIDS. But he did a lot of work before that, and this is the, what is it, the Shining Infant or something like that? The Radiant Infant. And I like it because it looks all shiny. It's fun. And it reminds me of Sesame Street and the work they did with them. Here's a saguaro cactus I drew, which is fun for the middle finger. And just, Mexico, again. My grandmother's from Mexico. She's from the Chihuahua region. We've got shush on the inside of both of our index fingers, actually, which is just fun to be able to just go like this. It also helps tell our dog to shush. He understands this gesture. So, there's that. We've got our symbol, the Prince, master of music. If you're not familiar with the Prince's music, you need to be familiar with the Prince's music. And their work as the symbol, too. Some people don't know. The reason the symbol came about is because they were having a feud with their record company. They had music they wanted to release, and the record company was like, no, we don't approve of this music, so they said, fine, and created their own label and did their own thing, and some of their best music was produced under the symbol. Look into it, for sure. And their work with the new power generation, the MPG. And finally on our hand here, on our right hand, we've got the symbol for non-binary, because that's what we are. And that's our right arm and hand. And I think that's all we're going to cover right now. Alright, we'll do these two real quick, since you've been staring at them the whole time they've been working. This one here is done in honor of a friend of ours who had a port wine stain birthmark on their face that looked like a butterfly.